Hello and welcome to A Little Bit of Wellness. I'm joined by Steve McMahon, aka MCM Performance. Steve, how are you, my man?
I'm good, Paddy. How's things?
Not too bad, not too bad. It's been a long time no chat. It's been a while since I properly got down to talk to you.
Yeah, Jesus. It doesn't seem like it's been maybe 6, maybe 7 years since we started in first year in college together.
Yeah, it is definitely. We're taking serious paths since then. We started together. Obviously, we didn't finish together. What's it kind of been like for yourself since you came out of college? You've set up a new business yourself. You're in the lab with the lads. You're flying
Yeah, it's I suppose it's one of those things that you really can't tell where you're going to be. If you were to ask me, I suppose when I left college, like where would we both be? I think our guesses would have been probably far left of center of what reality actually is. And I suppose just my account, I suppose, of after college is just don't be closed-minded to anything. I never thought I'd be working with three bodybuilders in a bodybuilding gym. To start with, like that doesn't seem like something that I would do, but I'm absolutely loving my life and probably in the best position I've ever been in, to be honest.
That's great, man. And just take it back, just strip it back from the surface a second. Why fitness? Like, why at the start? Why was that the path you decided to take? Was it by choice or did it just fall upon you?
Uh, Jesus, I won't lie to you, Paddy. Like the initial goal was physio, and it still is on the cards, which I'll have on a while maybe. But I suppose that was the goal, and health and leisure was the type of thing that I suppose I was always into sport. I always played sport. I played a lot of sport, and it was something that I was always interested in. And it was just what I was offered in the CEO, and I remember thinking that I got three, and I was disgusted. I'm not even going to lie about it. I was disgusted, absolutely disgusted, and my mother convinced me to go back and just try it. And sure, I went back, and sure, I was there for 2 days, and I was like, I'm never leaving.
Yeah.
I thought it was the best thing since sliced pan. And yeah, it just, to be honest, like the more I kind of went, and the more I saw that probably coaching and helping other people with fitness and health was probably more of an inclination than I had than actually playing myself or being fit myself. That was something that I very much enjoyed.
Yeah, definitely. And like you took the massage route when you went into health and leisure, so that was kind of aired towards going to the physio. Like what changed during the course that you kind of went more, oh, I'm into performance now. Like what was there a switch that flicked or was it something else?
Yeah, I think like geez, I really enjoyed my time in massage, no doubt. But I suppose my philosophy changed around like health and fitness, and especially around I suppose strength and conditioning. And I suppose I came to realization in kind of around third year, and the research that I read was more that like rehab has more to do with like strength and strength deficits than it does like to do with stretching or tightness per se. And I felt that I had probably garnered a lot from like the 3 years in health and leisure with massage, and I decided that like athletic performance or strength conditioning was just the next leap. I feel like I had got enough from what I was doing, and I wanted to move on and learn something different. Not saying that I wasn't going to learn anymore, but it was just something that it piqued my interest, and I felt I was like, this is the right way to go for me.
Yeah, definitely. And like there's you notice the trends now, like in terms of physiotherapists, it's more now instead of before it was like, oh, this get massaged, get rubbed on. Now it's actually all about do these exercises for prevention over instead of all that,
Yeah, it's turning to be a very prescriptive occupation, which I always would have been in favor anyway, because I feel like and something that like health and leisure would have been big for promoting was and even as a trainer or a coach, like we don't change people, we just facilitate change, and that's exactly where I think physio is going, you know.
Yeah, definitely. The change always comes from within, really. And with yourself now, like you've developed your own business, MCM Performance. You're kind of flying with that. You're working with Limerick ladies. What origins of MCM Performance come from? What made you decide that's the route I'm going next?
Well, I suppose I would have started out as a coach fit was I think the term that I had originally. And yeah, I kind of went with that, and the idea was very much a rehab side of things, and which I still have a bit of an interest in, because obviously physio is the goal. But I suppose for me, it just again it was more of an interest that just like the strength and conditioning side of things just took my interest. And I suppose I play a lot of sport as well. Like Joe, like my life is very much revolved around the GA, and like every probably club Irishman. But I think yeah, just MCM performance was an amalgamation. I think coach fit maybe didn't fit what my own, I suppose, internal dilemma right. I felt that rehab was just something that I wasn't happy to go down a very niche area. And I think MCM performance, it amalgamated everything. So whether that was bringing people back from injury, or whether that was trying to get the best out of them in terms of performance, or even like I do see myself going down other options, like performance isn't limited to sport. Like Joe, like we perform at home, we perform at school, we perform everywhere. Like, and that's kind of, I suppose, the philosophy around MCM performance.
Yeah, I like that. All right, it's people always think like they say performance, they think it's always physical. There's more like there's performance in every kind of aspect of life. Like me and you are performing right now. Like I love. There's a quote from Chris Eubank. It's the world is a stage and we are all actors. So like we're always performing, you know. It kind of it's how it goes. So like with performance itself, the principles of training are a massive aspect there. They're the kind of foundation that we laid in kind of college for performance. Those that are wondering what the principles of training are, there'll be specificity, overload, progression, adaptation, reversibility. And one I like to include is in the individual's response to training itself. Could you break down kind of how you've used the principles of training over time recently?
Yeah, and I think this is something that I was actually talking to someone very recently about how our industry is unfortunately such it's very like there's a lot of ambiguity. So like we argue over or what's the right protocol or which way to split a hair. But I suppose at the end of the day, like what you just mentioned there, like individuality is probably the key, and that's something that I would probably abide by. Like I feel like there really is, like if I was to talk about my own coaching or even with Limerick, I don't have like certain things that are across the board because everyone is very different. I don't mean to give you such a generic answer, oh, we're all special and Joe, like it depends. But I suppose what I'm getting at is like you have to try and take an individual and I suppose weigh up, look, where is the margin here? Like the like we're looking at where is the percentage gain we can get from someone, and some people that might be their mindset. It might be like taking away some of their self-limiting beliefs and then applying some like individual training. Other people need just more progressive overload. They might be training hard enough, and then some people need just repeatability. They just need more consistency. And I suppose you just look at those from a zoomed out angle is how I would go about it, and try and make it as simple as possible, and then just apply it in an individual context.
Yeah, that like one size doesn't fit all is kind of where I see you're kind of getting at there. And just like to break down the principles a bit more, kind of for people that might actually know what they are. You always harp on about being specific. If you want to get faster, you sprint. If you want to lift more weight, you lift more weight. You know, that kind of way. That's kind of the way it works. What would be kind of the one you really kind of delve into as a coach? Would it be being specific?
Yeah, and I think there's unfortunately again the ambiguity in our context is nearly it would nearly put you off for entering the industry because there's never a straight answer. But to actually give you a straight answer, like I think the idea would be doing the right thing at the right time. So maybe not like specific per se, but just knowing what someone needs and when they need it, and matching those two things up. Because I think that sounds very simple in context, but I suppose if you have, I don't know, if you have someone sitting in front of you, let's just say someone that like has done their ACL similar to you had, and they're telling you that they're fine, but all the other indications say they're not. It's about matching up what they need with their beliefs, and I suppose the idea is like how can you give the person what they need and what they want at the same time.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if that's, sorry, I just feel like looping off there on a bit of a tangent.
no, that's it's all good, all good. No, I get you completely. So like some people kind of come in with a tunnel vision in their head that I'm able to do this, I can do this. Like I've often had clients, they've come to me, oh, like 6 months ago, I lifted 100 kg, but I haven't been weight training since. And when they come to me, they're expecting me to put them on 100 kg straight away. That's the principle of reversibility coming in. You use it or you lose it. Like it's kind of the mindset that, oh, you know, I should pick up where I left off. How hard is it, do you think, to deal with people coming back from injury and things, and to kind of strip it back for them?
I would say, like, it's to be honest, it's quite hard. I'm not even going to lie, especially in a sporting context. I think maybe in a more of a general population or a bodybuilding style thing, I think it's probably easier to deal with, because there isn't as many time constraints. I suppose what I would see a lot is It's like some of this stuff about injuries, it's really not much about the injury at all. It's more about our expectations, and expectations is a lot of what I would deal with. So like when someone comes to me with a problem, the idea is like, first of all, are they expecting what they might get? Like, are their expectations right? Are they expecting to be back in 4 weeks when the physio is saying 8? And it's about managing that rather than the injury. Like most of those injuries, like our bodies are powerful, like our mind is powerful, and our bodies will heal themselves given enough time and correct protocol. But it's the expectations in our head that do more damage.
Yeah, 100%. And with you were saying there, knowing what to do at the right time, how important is periodization from your side, in terms of that?
Yeah, no, this is a good question. 100%. I would say periodization is important, very important, but not in the context of, I suppose, as specific as we might think. So for me anyway, like it's always important to have a plan. But I suppose to quote Joe O'Connor, like there's the plan and then there's what actually happens. And I think like even for example right now, so next week we're back with the Limerick ladies, the seniors, and I think from then we have 6 weeks until our first game. Now in any textbook, like any like expert will tell you you're crazy, like Joe, like that it's impossible to prepare a squad of players for something as high as intercounty football in 6 weeks. But you just kind of have to do the best at what you have at the time you have it. To kind of give you more of a straight answer, I think it's important just to plan what you do, but it's important to just be able to adapt and take what's really, really important from what's not so important.
Yeah, people I think try to get too many things done at once instead of saying, look, if we can get this basics kind of nailed, that's kind of lay your foundation first instead of trying to expand out into all the other areas. That's kind of, I think, where you're kind of getting at. And in terms of like, say, working with ladies now, in terms of that's a whole team. How do you differ from, you've worked with probably individuals nearly most of your life. Now you're catering for a whole team of players. What has that transition been like?
It's been a challenge. I won't lie. It's been a challenge, and I think it's been a huge, like a very like large upward learning curve. Which is probably one of the biggest learning curves I've had. Like I've dealt with teams before, but actually dealing with an inter-county senior squad is definitely different to what you would have been taught in college. And I definitely was probably lucky that I got where I was, and I was thrown in the deep end too. And I think the best thing that could have happened to me was to be thrown into it, because I suppose even I was saying to someone there lately, like I realized last year, like I wasn't bad at my job, but I feel like Jesus, I'm far better at what I do right now, and I'm far more highly organized and far more, I suppose, just aware of myself and aware of what needs to be done this year. Now bear in mind as well, I've had about 9 months with nothing going on to have a think about this. I've been planning this for about a year, so that's probably part of it too. But I suppose, again, just trying to keep, I suppose, in my head, like, and at home, like I even here, like across, I have papers here behind my computer. Like the idea is like keep it simple is always the, I suppose, the message that I kind of try and keep it, like just keep it simple and deal with each person as an individual, just like I would as a commercial client,
And in terms of like your time constraints, though, like dealing with a whole squad of players, individuals, that does take a lot of time.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of the logistics is actually something that I don't think anyone plans for. Like something like everyone plans for the time at train, and everyone plans for the coaching, like the speed or your runs or like jumps and hops and skips, but we don't tend, I think, especially people that maybe like if I was giving advice to someone coming into this industry, I'd be kind of saying like know your worth in terms of like if you're an S&C coach, like it's like you're not just doing an hour. There's probably the hour before setting up, the hour after talking to management, and there's probably an hour during the day doing like actually planning what you're going to do. And I think that's probably like one of the bigger parts of my job is the logistics outside. Like let's just say, what do I do if someone comes to me and they're injured? Like how do I deal with that? How do I remember to do something about that? Kind of etc. etc.
Yeah, I like my last podcast, even like the Dylan who was on with me, he literally said people think the hour of which you're coaching them is all you're doing. That's the easy part. Like you've done that so many times. That's the easy part. It's planning it out and making sure, right, based off last week we need to do this, based off 3 weeks time. Like often people working in GA, you work back. So you start, right, this is the date we need to be ready for it. You're working back from there. Like that must have been a huge challenge in terms of not knowing the dates and knowing what to do. Have you been doing Zoom meetings? What have you been kind of doing, or do you give them just a break?
So I tried to balance it. Is the probably the best way to describe it. So back in January, we knew we would be coming back at some stage. Like Joe, I think it was always on the horizon that it was going to be there, but we just didn't know when. And you are right in terms of it was very hard to, I suppose, at times keep morale up, because it's very hard to, I suppose, the term I would use, like, you don't want to be flogging a dead horse, like Joe, like you don't want to be really putting it on someone when, like, people would be wondering what's the point, when are we going to be back, when are we going to, like, what's the point in doing this, you know. So the idea was, I think we gave him a long spell after last year's championship. So we last November, so we lost to Fermanagh in the All Ireland semi-final, and we kind of gave him off. Then we left him off, and we had no contact with him, which I was quite adamant about, and that they didn't hear from us, to give him 100% of a break until maybe around mid-January. And then in mid-January, we kind of just, I did Zoom classes with the girls twice a week, and the idea was obviously, it was obviously a group thing, and obviously was a little bit of fitness involved, not as much as we would have liked, because obviously Zoom, there's limitations, but we evolved it like through like different methods and stuff like that. And then previously there in the last couple of weeks, I gave them kind of a couple of weeks just to kind of do nothing, and not do nothing but away from me, because I suppose impact is a big thing that I would probably, like, I would highly, I suppose, refer to. And when someone is constantly talking to you, they lose their impact. And I suppose I try and time it so that I give the girls very specific, actionable kind of goals to do. But I only put the heat on them very, very small times of the year, so that they're not like, oh, again, Steve's harping on about this, and he's always harping on about this. So the idea is just, they kind of, we just balanced it with times where they had no contact with us, and then intense times where we train really hard.
Yeah, it's kind of like a thing of mental freshness. So like you can't, like so many people have said, you can't peak twice in a year. So if you're trying to get them ready for, like, keep them going, like literally they're going to peak, and next thing there's going to be a big drop off level. Like you want to try and tailor it that they're getting peak at the right time for you.
Yeah, and I think excitability is something that maybe isn't talked about enough in terms of like the want to train. Like we assume that GA players and the elite want to train all the time, but that's not the case, and I don't think it's the case. And now I'm probably speaking too much of a general sweeping, but some people love training all the time. Fair enough. But I do see, like, yeah, and something that I probably didn't see before was, like, we probably underestimate the amount of training that these people do, like with inter-county squads, and how much of their lives, like, is taken up by training. So I think it's important that, like, when players, like, come back, that they have that excitable, like, they want to play, like, that they want to be there, because if you don't want to be there, then you're wasting your time.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely, 100%. You hit the nail on the head with that one. And with, like, you've worked with male teams, haven't you, club boys? What was the change like? Like, there's nothing here in terms of gender, but what was the change like from going from male to working with a women's team? Do you find it a big difference?
Yeah, I did, 100%. And I'll be 100% honest, like, transparent, and I obviously without insulting anybody. But like I was very ignorant in terms of the way I went about things, and when I say ignorant, I mean uninformed. Like, not ignorant as in awful. I mean, like, I didn't know. It was my first time dealing with a very high spec ladies team, and you know what? I suppose as far as I can see, like, there is no difference. We're like, there's a self-limiting, or there's a self-belief limit there, like, that we're kind of like, the girls can't do what the boys can do. The girls can do what the boys can do, and more. Like, with the girls are just as good as the boys. Like, and it's maybe taking me a little bit to see, you know what, when you ask the girls to do something, if you ask them to meet the standard, they'll come and meet the standard. And
Yeah.
it's just across the board. Like, and yeah.
Like, I think guys bitch more than girls when it comes to training, honestly.
Yeah, I think there definitely is part of that. I think there is 100% a dynamic change in terms of like a male dealing with a male and a male dealing with a female, and it's something that has to be approached with caution, like, and without being too like passive or too standoffish. Like, it's just like anyone. And I suppose what I try to do is just, like, I have female, like, individual clients and male individual clients, and I don't treat them very differently. Like, if I think someone is capable of more, I'll tell them to buck up, and then some other times I'll need to put the arm around them and bring them on with me, like Joe. And it's again, it comes so back to individuality and treating the person as an individual.
Yeah, know your athlete. I think that's the kind of key. Get to know them and do based off what you see fit with them, like.
Yeah, and I suppose like and to coach Shane O'Rourke, like they're a person first, like they're a person first, they're an athlete second.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. So like in terms of weight, like athletes things, like you would have used the FITT principle too. Like how would you apply that now to working with the Limerick ladies?
Jesus, yeah, good question. I suppose I don't want to dodge the question. But I suppose the idea would be like I'd always try and like just bring it back to again, like what's the overall goal? What are we trying to achieve here? Because like I think we can talk about like the FITT principle, or we can talk about the actual principles of just training in general. And I suppose the idea is like, and something that I've come to realization as well recently is like strength and conditioning, like that's such a small part of our game. Again, I don't want to dodge the question, but I suppose the idea is literally like something like I don't really look too much at very like individual like systems and principles, but I just say this is what we need to achieve. These like what is the overall like thing we need to achieve? And generally with people, it's aerobic capacity or the ability to have a higher level of aerobic fitness, and that's probably a big one across the board. And then the next one is to be injury resilient, and that's kind of they're my main two that I go across. Are they healthy and fit? And that's kind of it, because again, you have like a tactical coach or a football coach that's shouting at you looking for him, like, you know, like after 10 minutes. So I suppose again, don't want to dodge your question, but it would never come down to something so specific, if you know what I mean.
Okay, so in terms of if you had a half forward training and you had a cornerback training, would you be changing the distance of the amount they run, or would you be no, we'll do it as a team?
It would be very much the way I would do is down to like maybe not position, but their physiological profile. So what I mean by that is when we test them. So let's just say they did what we do is the standard is a 1.2 kilometer run, and we'll just break that down into, let's just say, 3 categories. So like the first one, let's just say if the best time was maybe 3.5, 4 minutes, and then the next, like the worst time is 6 minutes, and then you just break that into 3 separate groups, and the distance then would just reflect, say, if someone can run, I don't know, let's just say 100 meters in 10 seconds. The idea is to make them fitter. You need to push them just a little bit outside that boundary. So you'd say, look, I need you to meet 100 meters in 9 seconds. And same for someone who's like 12 seconds, you'd push them to 11. And it's more about their physiological, like what can they do right now and how can we push them to be a little bit better. Now, with saying that, obviously there are some people that I would say, look, if you're a cornerback, it's probably not too important that you have a great 1 kilometer run. Like you're probably not going to cover a huge amount of distance. So it'd be more important for you to be able to produce power in a very short period of time. So like those girls will probably be very much so like on a program where developing power would be like the go-to. But again, I suppose we're getting probably a bit more deeper into it now. But across the board from the last 6 months, it's just about keeping girls like in a general state of fitness, because like the equipment that the girls have isn't the same. Like not all the girls have the same equipment, so it's very hard to say, right, I want you to do this and this, because they might have equipment to do this and this. So it's been a challenge to program that kind of stuff for now.
Yeah, definitely. I had teams myself, and I was noticing like there was some lads coming with like a heap of dumbbells, and then there was another lad that came with nothing. And he was like, "Oh, I don't even want to be here anymore because, you know, it's the mental side of it. Like they're a bit overwhelmed by it, and like, you know, am I going to be able to get the best out of it?" And then you've stress triggers in your mind saying, "Geez, he's going to be miles ahead of me by the time we get in the pitch," and it's hard to deal with it all. Like you're trying to manage it and put a cap on it, but it's difficult.
Yeah, I think and something that probably I would have learned from over lockdown is and this is more from a commercial setting than anything else, is like lockdown has taught us that like people, you can be in the best shape of your life with a pair of dumbbells, like or a kettlebell. And that's just a self-limiting belief. And there's some people that have come out of, I've like people that have come out of lockdown probably in the best shape of their lives, and they had access to a gym for the last 10 years of their life, you know. So I think it's more of a self-limiting belief, or it's probably a belief of what you can do, but at the same time there just has to be consideration for what equipment people have available to them, you know.
Definitely. And then in terms of like the likes of recovery and things, when you're when you're there remote in recreation, how are you coping with their recovery?
I suppose the idea would be just to promote like things like I promote highly like their steps. So like the research that I'd be on board with, or the most recent research I would have watched is like active recovery is probably the most important, like the like just blood flow in general is, and being active and not leading sedentary lifestyle is the best way to recover. And just like operating at a higher metabolic level, because when someone is not, I suppose, getting their steps in, it doesn't mean that they're not recovering well, but someone with a pattern of not having a good non-activity exercise like regime would probably be fairly close to someone who's, you know what, probably not training very hard or probably not recovering very well. So the way I see it, if someone is like bang on with something like their steps, there's a good chance that they're probably looking after themselves in terms of mobility stuff and like foam rolling, etc., etc. I suppose the only other thing I suppose that I would probably promote is logging downtime. And so like actually logging switched off 100%, like not even thinking about anything time. So like, have you spent time with your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your parents, your family? Have you spent time where you're not thinking about anything else, where it's just quality, like kind of, I suppose, mindfulness time? Is that what you might call it, or just downtime is what I call it?
Yeah, definitely. It's a huge thing, really. Like, so many people think that like recovery is fueling, it's stretching, it's just standard rest. It is all that, but there's a lot more to it as well than, you know, back what people used to think it was. Like,
Yeah, and I think I would actually probably and so something that people would probably question me on is the change in dynamic of like their J has such a stigma, not a stigma, but it's such a routine of, geez, after we exercise, we must stretch. And it has to be done, like it's a has to be. And I'm all for following the general protocol for stretching after exercise. But you know what? Something like maybe like your athletes hitting their protein target, it probably takes priority. Like if your athletes are leaving the pitch at 10 to 10, you know what? Like their nutrition is probably compromised and their sleep is probably compromised. Like, so like it's probably not worth doing that 15 minutes extra stretch. They could be 15 minutes home. But you're keeping at the pitch in the cold. So that would be something, I suppose, maybe to answer your question even better, would be I try and get the girls home and fed probably like sooner rather than later. Like don't spend time with them in the cold, sitting there listening to you ramble on about your fitness and all that stuff. Just get them home and let them go to sleep.
definitely. So, like, in terms of the anabolic window of opportunity, you'd be a firm believer in that, getting it in a specific time.
No, I actually wouldn't, which you probably contradicts maybe a little bit what I was saying. Like the research or the position stand that was released not so long ago. Now I need to do obviously a bit more research, but like the research that was released not so long ago in I think it was it 20, I think it was 2018. So like it was the International Society of Sports Nutrition, basically stated that like the anabolic window would last 48 hours. So that would be basically like the whole way from when you finish a session to probably the next session. Now, I do believe that like it's probably not as straightforward as that. Like it doesn't mean like you can't like finish a training session and then like 2 minutes before you start your next session unload the protein and that will work. Obviously that doesn't work, but the way we would work it is the girls have a protein target. So they'd be set like a certain amount of protein that they would need to reach on a day, and it would generally change on a training day versus a non-training day. So on recovery days where they don't need as much energy, their macros will be more associated with protein for recovery, and then on training days or match days there'll be less protein and more carbohydrates, fats, etc., etc.
Yeah, of course. I often think with the with the anabolic window, I think it's a placebo effect massively. Like, I think if in your mind you say to yourself, right, I got that in now within the 40 minutes. Oh yeah, I'm getting my recovery now. And in your mind, you're telling your body is good, and your body responds to your mind telling it that it's good. Like, I think it's amazing how that works. Like, if you know about it.
Yeah, and I think we keep coming back to probably, and I don't want people to think that I'm just this guy spoofing about with fucking mindset, or sorry, sugar, my French. I don't want to be the guy that's just spoofing about mindset, but again, like you're like, a lot of what we do is we're setting like limits on our own beliefs. Like we're probably, if you tell yourself, and to quote Podge Guiney from the lab, like we often talk about, let's just say if you took an exercise like a bench press or maybe a chest press machine or something, like the only thing stopping you from making a PB is probably you. Like you saying, I can't make 10 kilos more in that exercise. the only one that's really stopping you from doing that is you. Now, fair enough, all right, there are like no one's gonna go in and snatch 200 kilos like Joe after deadlifting 100 kilos. Fair enough, but like in the smaller, more reasonable gains, like there's probably a lot to do with how we think and what we believe to be true. And definitely I think like you're onto something in terms of like there's something about the routine of maybe training hard and eating big, or making sure we're looking after it straight away. And there definitely is a relationship, I suppose, maybe just not highlighted enough in the research at the moment.
Yeah, like it's one thing you're a marathon runner and you're after running a marathon. You need to get your glucose in, like, you know, or else you're probably going to completely build up with lactic acid. But your gen pop just after doing a gym session, like if you have your protein eating spread throughout the day, like there's an athlete, she runs for Ireland, Shona Heaslip. She did a presentation. I'll never forget it in college. She was saying, yeah, if you spread your protein out throughout the day, it's the same thing, like, you know, people don't realize that.
Yeah, and I think I think we probably like, again, we're too specific sometimes, maybe with and maybe too we're probably too hypercritical of some things. Like I would often say to clients, like, Joe, when they've had a bad day or when something hasn't gone right, like the idea is it's done, like you can't do anything about it. And to be honest, it's probably not going to make a huge pile of a difference, like, because when you really think about it, like weight and like measurements and like body composition changes quite slowly for a lot of people. Like it has to change at a metabolic, like, or a cellular level before it starts to change at a macro level, and you start seeing changes. You missing your 2 grams of protein out of your 160 grams of protein probably isn't going to make a huge difference, like Joe, but you missing that 2 grams over a course of 8 weeks, that might make a difference. I think we probably look at it a bit more too specific. We're a bit too hypercritical of the here and now versus the zoomed out picture of everything, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And you just touched on kind of your like metabolic, like metabolism plays like a massive part in terms of like how we break down food is huge. So like in terms of our recovery, like how important a role do you think people's metabolism has in it?
I think definitely it's very, very important. It really is. I do think, and I posted a video about it a while back. I do think people are maybe we're very hung up on like a fast or a slow metabolism. And like I'm obviously a big against like metabolic boosters or will eating this speed up my metabolism. Like I think people forget that like your metabolism is affected by everything. Like your metabolism is affected by what time you get up in the morning and how much sunlight you get. And if you have sparkling water versus normal water, like your metabolism is a sum of all chemical reactions in your body which are happening like per million per second, like, and I think we maybe hang up too much in it, but it definitely is something, and something that I would probably promote would be like the best thing you can do for your metabolism is not be sedentary and like just don't be lazy, like Joe, like just do your steps, like try and eat your fruit and veg, like eat proper food, you know?
Yeah, like if you ask me when am I at my most sore, like it's like literally it's when I do nothing. Like if I did a heavy leg session and the day after, instead of just sitting down and doing nothing and saying, right, I'm just going to stretch, if I did a light movement session, I'd be amazing. Just to get the blood flow into the body and say, yeah, it's still working, you need to work for me. It just makes such a difference. Like,
yeah, and something that I get asked a lot, actually, probably the most frequent question is how do you manage leg days, like in season, you know, like when you're playing football or playing hurling, and it's something that I always get asked for. And I suppose my answer to that is we're probably going to take. Go on, yeah.
I don't.
And I suppose the real answer to that, and the answer nobody likes, is it's down to load. And again, I probably come back to like everything should be very based over a larger period of time. So like we all look at, Jesus, if I do a leg day today, tomorrow I'll be sore, but you haven't accounted for the last 6 weeks when you haven't done any leg days. Like if you had been doing leg days for 12 weeks and you're training at a very similar intensity, your load is very steady. So like the load at which you've been training at is very steady. Whereas if you come along and say, geez, I'm going to absolutely make absolute mess of my legs today, like loads of extensions, loads of quad work, loads of glute work, like, and you haven't done that over the past couple of weeks, of course you're going to be sore. But someone who is training consistently won't have that type of soreness.
Yeah, 100%, definitely. Sometimes like you think, if you just strip it back a small bit, the big thing is ego, I think. With me, and I'm a coach and I should know, but then when I get back into the gym doing legs, I can't take the step back to say, look, you haven't done these consistently enough to say, right, we need to strip back the weight a bit, we might need to take an exercise off. Then you end up killing yourself, you know. It's just, ego is a huge part, like.
Yeah, and it's the balance, I suppose, between progressive overload and I suppose safe lifting really. Like, and I think it's always important to like, and something that I would obviously advocate, considering I'm a coach, is having a coach. And I like,
Yeah.
I actually do have a coach at the moment, and like the idea is that like someone to keep tabs on you. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. Like, I mean, psychologists still need psychologists.
Yeah.
Like, physios still need physios. Doctors don't diagnose themselves. You know, like it doesn't matter who you are. You like it's probably better to have someone keep tabs on you because you're more productive when you do.
I heard actually something on the radio recently that just shows how bad the government in Ireland are, right? There's a girl that did psychology in college, and she needed a psychologist. There was none available, and they said to her, "Can't you be your own psychologist?" I
Yeah,
was like, "Oh my God, am I actually hearing this on live radio?" Like, seriously, crazy, absolutely
yeah.
crazy.
I think that sums up the situation at the moment. All right.
It definitely does. Just another thing, kind of on recovery, like hydration. Like it's massive to be taking fluid intake. It's huge. Do you think like back in the 70s they used to think that like taking in water slows you down? Like it's some contrast now.
Yeah, and I suppose something that I would refer to it, and it probably it's more of a pet peeve than it, and I like refer to it as fluid balance because the idea is like and from what I know of the research, like just a lot of people are probably just drinking. Like there's probably one side of the population that's drinking so much water and they're just urinating it out again.
Yeah,
And on the opposite side of the spectrum, there's people that are not drinking for huge parts of time and they're borderline dehydrated. And I suppose the idea would be like they're somewhere in the middle that like it's just about like again like a protein target. Have you a good pattern of drinking water? Like it doesn't like if you're someone who just turns up the train and you decide to not drink all train and then you go home and you slug back 3 liters of water like that doesn't really make too much sense. But I suppose the big thing that we would like associate is stuff like post training, like having electrolytes. So like electrolyte tabs, I would have given that to the girls coming up to championships. So like we do a couple of weeks of like so the nutrition will be periodized in terms of maybe the 4 weeks up to a game, and like we'd intermittently give them like a certain amount of water with a certain amount of electrolytes post training, so that we know on that day they have had that much, say, like potassium, sodium, and water together, and then the rest of the week is obviously up to themselves. But we know those 3 days of the week that they had that.
yeah. It's funny. That was literally going to be my next follow up question from hydration. Like, what are your thoughts on electrolytes? So they're crucial for you in terms of because a lot of people say no, you get enough salt in your food and things. Water is grand. You think getting that extra bit, you'll get more out of the electrolytes.
I think and to be very very like plain about it, like I think for someone to assess that, like to assess whether you're getting enough salt in your diet is for dietitians. Like that's like, and just to be clear, I'm not a dietitian, but like an electrolyte is something that like the risk versus reward is very low. Like, I mean, the reward for being properly hydrated is quite high, like optimal performance, better cognition, just better health in general, as opposed to being dehydrated is quite a big risk. And not just to sport. And again, coming back to like they're people first, like these people have jobs, like we have nurses and teachers and people that go home to their families, and you know what, being dehydrated is quite dangerous. So I suppose in terms of that, you know what, even if someone does have quite a high sodium intake, when someone has done an inter-county training session, there's a good chance that they need proper fluid balance, and that would be my rationale for it.
Just to replenish what has been lost, really.
Yeah, and I suppose that just to highlight as well, like it's not like I'm giving them Lucozade and it's like a high sugar energy drink. Like
Yeah,
it's literally like 5 to 700 mils of water with like half an electrolyte tablet of which is potassium and sodium. Like
exactly.
so it's very much a like scientific thing. Like
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. People think like for electrolytes they always associate Lucozade Sport and all that. It's not like you can make yourself comfortably like.
yeah, 100%.
And like with the last little thing that we'll touch on recovery, sleep. King of recovery for me anyway, or queen, wherever I want to put it. But for you, like you post about sleep a lot. Like how important is sleep to you in recovery?
Yeah, and funny enough, like I actually had another coach say to me, like Joe, I post I have a Whoop band. I don't know if you do follow me, so I post like my sleep performance, and like admittedly it's not good enough, and it's a type of thing again. This is why coaches need coaches, because someone like I need someone to tell me, Stephen, go to bed, like Joe, like, just go to bed, like put the phone away and go to bed, but I suppose sleep is just like if I was to recommend anything, just go and read the Matthew Walker book, Why We Sleep. And I read that maybe last year, and to be honest, it kind of changed my life, not even gonna lie. Because I suppose just the small things, and not to get too deep into it, but we always, like, I have loads of people that be like, oh, I function well on little sleep, which is fair enough. I don't have too much of a problem with something like that, but we talk about sleep as if it's something like it's a currency that we can get back. But Matthew Walker, kind of like the sleep guy, he talks a lot about how, like, sleep isn't something that can be traded. It's not something that we can miss out on here and catch up on here. It's not like our protein or our calories. It's not something we can make up for. If you lose sleep, like, you are unrested, like, and that's not something you can catch up on. You can sleep and do more sleep, but it's not something that you can technically get back. And I think it's really important that we don't maybe take it for granted. And I think definitely maybe in the last year it's improved because we've all had a little bit more time in our hands. But it's definitely something I'm always ranting on about it, because we spend so much money on like these recovery utilities, but we're not going to bed on time, which is just a cart before the horse, and that's where I would come from anyway.
Definitely, like just for people, like, if they want to be a bit educated, like we do produce the human growth hormone when we go into a deep sleep. Like, it's produced by the pituitary gland in our brain. Like, that is for growth and repair of tissues, like in muscles. Like, so it's a huge thing to get enough sleep and get into a deep sleep. And you're not going to get into a deep sleep if you're only getting maybe 3 or 4 hours. Like,
yeah. And like on that, like even just, I suppose I gave a presentation there lately to a group of footballers, like, and like I was kind of putting it to them, like, it's like, for me, a lot of it is cognition, and obviously growth hormone and stuff like that is so important for, like, optimal performance. But you know what, like, our brain is very, very powerful, and our brain is, like, probably more important, like, in my mind sometimes, than the actual, like, growth and repair of tissue, because Joe, it's our brain that makes our decisions. Like, it's our brain that decides to eat McDonald's as opposed to steak and chips. Like, and I suppose the idea would be, have you ever woke up after 2 hours sleep and felt ready for a maths exam? Like, or have you ever woke up after 3 hours sleep and been in a good mood? Because, do you know what, like, when you don't sleep, like, your cognition is impaired and you can't make good decisions. And if you can't make good decisions, the likelihood is you're not going to eat well, you're not going to train well, and you're not going to recover well subsequently after that.
Yeah, I just like to kind of flip it on its head, like sleep deprivation. Like, from your experience, so you've posted times that you've got optimal recovery from sleep, then you posted times I've seen you've got little to none. Could you compare those 2 days for me? What's the day that, like, are you hitting the day you get the optimal recovery, and, like, what's the difference like?
Do you know what, I suppose the way I would see it anyway is, and someone asked me this yesterday about my Whoop, because they'd be like, do you oblige by, when it tells you you've had poor sleep, do you oblige by that and not train? And I'm someone that I feel, maybe it's a placebo effect, but I am someone that, like, when I've been told some positive, like, reinforcement, I've been reinforced positive, you've had a good night's sleep, I'm bouncing around the place, like, because it's, even if it means nothing, I'm bouncing around the place. And again, back to the self-limiting beliefs, like, maybe I should just have someone, like, fake these results and tell me every day, because then I'm bouncing out of bed. But yeah, look, I suppose the way I would, like, to answer that question, definitely, like, there's days, like, when I wake up and I might have, like, 30% of recovery, I'm, like, dragging my heels and I'm walking around and everything is the worst and sure, everything is harder. But, and then the days you get good sleep, you feel like $1 million. And I suppose, like, imagine if you were to just have that $1 million feeling every day, imagine how good of a player you'd be then.
Yeah, definitely. But you wouldn't then have the excitability, because it would be constant, you know.
Exactly.
So it's all about balance. So we're pretty much coming on to the last few topics. Like, goal setting, huge one again. You spoke about kind of goals in terms of what your FITT principle. It depends on kind of the goal you have at the end of the year. With, say, a GA player, like, you obviously you'd be smart with the goals. But say, take me through it. A GA player that you have, that you're coaching, not on the GA team now, essentially the ladies team, but a GA player that comes to you as an individual. Break down the short, medium, and long-term goals for them.
Yeah, and I suppose long term, and I mentioned this in my recent post, is like, I probably asked them, what excites you, like what, like think of the wildest thing that could happen, like think of, like, Joe, like, if a guy came to me and he's like, I want to look like Keane Lynch, I was like, let's write it down, because, you know what, the long term goal will change, like, it will change, but the idea is, like, you need to do something that will excite you enough to keep you going when you're not motivated. And then from that long-term goal, we'd say, right, well, there's a long-term goal, let's make a 12-week goal, maybe like that's kind of the medium goal that we can say, right, what can we like realistically achieve in 12 weeks? Or do you know what would be a serious stepping stone? Like if we could look back in 12 weeks, how would we describe that as good value or a good return on investment? And I suppose then 6 week would be more of a habit lifestyle goal. Like it would be process focused. And that's something that I'm very, very, I suppose, keen on at the moment is being focused on what you do every day. So just being next task or next training focused as opposed to the goals we're trying to achieve. So like in 6 weeks time, I'd be like, well, do you know what? Like, have you eaten your 5 fruit and veg a day for the last 6 weeks in a row? If the answer to that is no, then we can't really expect the goal. Like we can't expect something. Like you can't expect to put in this much effort and get out in a different amount of results. So that would be how I would, I suppose, assign those in here.
And how important is it with clients, from your experience, is to actually achieve that short-term goal?
Very, yeah, no, 100%. And like most people come to it on their own. So some people need a bit more tough love. Like some people just need to be reminded of, like, if they didn't show up to work, they wouldn't get paid. So that if they don't show up to training, then like they're not going to get the result. And I think again, a big part of my coaching is managing expectations. And I suppose people probably pay me for my probably more like the insight into being able to see the bigger picture. Like Joe, like anyone can give you a training plan, anyone can give you a nutrition plan, but I feel probably what makes me unique is probably just being able to see a bigger picture and be like, you know what, let's reframe this. Like Joe, like how much work have we put in? What have we got as a result? Like are they in sync? You know, and maybe put it to them like that.
Yeah, definitely. I just noticed like adherence, like when the short-term goal isn't reached, you often see it fall by the wayside. You know, it just seems to kind of as if everything crumbles, but they don't, like you said, reframe it, see the bigger picture. What have we done wrong? A person with like a better mental state of mind would say, right, this is an opportunity to grow and we can actually make adjustments. So it's key kind of as the coach to be able to portray that to them, like.
Yeah, and adherence is number one. If someone doesn't adhere to, you're wasting your time, pissing in the wind. Again, excuse my French, but you're absolutely wasting your time. But both time, money, effort, value, you're just wasting your time.
Yeah, 100%. And so like with you as a coach, do you set goals when you're with a client, or is it just their goals you're working off? Have you your own goals?
I work from KPIs, so just key performance indicators. So like we'll like I'll maybe discuss that. I suppose to answer for the initial question, people come to me with a goal, and I generally don't take people on unless they have a certain goal. Like unless it's I want to achieve this, because people that come to me, if they're like I don't know what I want to achieve, kind of want a bit of this, kind of a bit of that. That's indecisiveness, and that means that they haven't found what makes them excited. They haven't come across what's going to keep them motivated. So I'd kind of say, look, you probably need a bit more time to actually figure out what you want, because you can't provide someone with something if they don't know what they want. And I suppose they'd set that long-term goal, and I just break that down into KPIs. So like the idea would be, if someone's like, I want to fit into a size 10 jeans, be like, look, we're a size 16 right now, let's just say, if you're with me for 12 weeks, after 6 weeks you need to be fitting into a 14, because otherwise we're not going to make 12, like, or our size 10. Like, so that would be how I would probably go about it.
Yeah, definitely. Like I've noticed it myself recently. Like I only graduated myself last year, but any clients I have taken in since I joined the gym in the stall, and any of them that have that indecisiveness, like you say, I noticed that they fall by the wayside, you know. And I'm at the stage now where I'm like you, I don't want to take on people like that anymore. I want someone that knows what they want, and it's no disrespect to them. It's just for us to achieve anything, you need someone that has a commitment to a specific thing, and that's it. Like.
Yeah, and I think as well, like I often have times where I don't know what I want. 100%. Like I'm one of those people that maybe doesn't really know what he wants a lot of the time. But that just means that person isn't ready for change. Like that person isn't ready to make a commitment to change. Like it doesn't mean they're wrong, or it doesn't mean they're a bad person. It just means they're probably not the right fit for a program that you're providing at that time, you know?
Yeah, it's like the stage of change model, that there's pre-contemplation, there's contemplation there, but they're not ready for action yet. Like.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And so just last kind of couple of things, like with yourself then, like with well-being, what 3 main things, if you could pinpoint 3 things you do in your life daily for your own well-being and wellness, what would they be?
Yeah, so I suppose walking is something that I would never have in my life imagined myself doing before lockdown. Like never in my life would I have been like, will we go for a walk? Like that would have been like over my head. But it's definitely keep me sane. 100%. Like I think definitely over the first couple of months of lockdown, I was definitely lethargic, and I was never in a bad headspace. Like I was never in a state of anxiety or any like close to being anyway mentally health like fatigued or compromised. But I was definitely lethargic, and I was finding it hard to sleep, and I was finding it hard to have motivation. Like, what's the point? But I definitely found again when I stopped being sedentary, when I started being active and just doing something and keeping my conscious brain occupied with something, I'm far more like I have a lot more like I feel like I'm far healthier than or more I have more well-being. I'm not sure if that's the term I'm putting it, but then number two, like I started journaling lately, and something that probably again I would never have like I would have been like you're a lot of fluff like if you're writing your feelings down on paper. But I found this in particular journal, so it's called a 5-minute journal. It's made by a company called Intelligent Change, and basically takes like 5 minutes. You journal in the morning and you journal in the evening, and all it asks you in the morning is like 3 things that you're grateful for, and then what 3 things it like would make today great. And it could be anything like, but the idea is you have to source out and search for things that you can be grateful for, and it actually has been psychologically proven. There's research to back that it makes you a more positive person, or a more, I suppose, positively thinking person by trying to find things to be grateful for. And then at night it just asks you like 3 amazing things that happened today, and then what one thing could you have done today to make today better.
I love that. Absolutely love that. That's what's the name of the company again?
It's called Intelligent Change, and they produced a 5-minute journal. Really, really good, really good. Like again, I would have been like you're a spoofer who Joe writing your feelings down, but it really is like so good. And Joe, if you actually research it, all high performance athletes do it. Paul O'Connell is renowned for writing down like his feelings in a journal, like post game, pre game, every Sunday. Like it's a world renowned thing that people don't talk about.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. It's so important. Like people say talk about it, but sometimes talk about it with yourself by doing things like that. Like reflection is such a I listened to something recently. Instead of being a reactive person, be a reflective person. So if you're reactive, you're probably not in a good headspace. But if you're reflective, you're ticking boxes. Like, and it's a huge thing. So that's your second one. Have you any other one to share first?
I suppose the other one is we probably don't. I think like for me anyway, I'm a social person, and that's not like I'm popular, like that's not like that. But I need other people. Like I'm a talker. Like I will talk to anybody about anything. I'll talk to the wall if you let me. Like but I need other people. And I definitely, I suppose COVID was definitely a learning experience that like you need to talk to people, like you need to ring your friends, like you need to have a group of people that you can talk to, and not disrespecting your family or disrespecting your very close group of friends, but you know what, like you need to reach out to different people that will challenge your own opinions and beliefs, and just maybe make you a reflective person, like you're talking, John. That would be a big thing for me, is just maybe touching base with people that I mightn't have touched base with, like college friends, etc., etc. Zoom calls, just meeting people out for a walk when restrictions allow or whatever, you know.
Yeah, 100%. That's definitely, like, we're social animals at the end of the day, and like without that, it takes an awful lot away from our personality, like. So it is a big thing. See, we're nearly there, man. We're nearly at the hour mark. I have 3 questions from the Walsh Weekly I did before Christmas. 3 random questions here. The first one is actually it fits well based on kind of what happened this week with another shooting in America. Unfortunately, I know it's a bad thing to kind of be talking about, but how do you think the Black Lives Matter movement, do you think it's been successful?
Yeah, and this is at risk of probably losing a couple of hundred followers, but no, I don't think it has been successful, unfortunately. To be brutally honest with you, I think like I would like it to have been. And I think definitely it should have been, but I don't think it has been. And I suppose I can't maybe pinpoint too much as to, no, that's a lie. I can, like I think it's like it's ownership, it's accountability, like it's I think what I feel would need for that to be success is, I think, I'm not sure if you've seen the clip lately of, was it a Spanish team where there was a guy, a colored guy, he was obviously racially insulted by a member of the other team, and his whole team walked off the field.
Yeah, I saw that,
yeah. And I'm not saying that everything needs to be as drastic as that. But I suppose similar to the kind of Sarah Everard case there with the female equality thing, I think it's just about being accountable and like responsible for your actions, but like calling it out amongst your friends as well. Like, if someone is being racist, or if someone is being very offensive to like the opposite gender, or whatever they identify as, like, it's not just up to you to be quiet and not do it. Like, it's up to you to call your friends out. Like, you are a mix of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and if your friends are doing that, like, it's up to you to call that out. Like, and I feel like that's probably what needs to happen, is just there needs to be more accountability and personal responsibility taking,
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think it kind of epitomizes it. Like, Wilfred Zaha, he's a Premier League footballer, if anyone has kind of wondered who he is. But he decided to stop taking the knee before games because he just said, like, it's pointless. Like, you're putting a message, like, it's just people don't even, like, to be honest with you, I watch a soccer match now, I don't actually take any notice that I'm taking the knee. Like, you don't know, like, you don't even think, oh, that's Black Lives Matter or anything. It's just another thing like that goes on. And that's no disrespect at all, but it doesn't have an impact, it's just, it's another word, but realistically, there's no education there. There's nothing, like, it's just...
No, and I think it's the same as like the Blackout Tuesday, which obviously was a brilliant initiative. But I mean, we all put up a black picture on Facebook or Instagram, and you know what? We all forgot about it 10 seconds later.
Yeah, and it's the same. Do you know what one thing I hate? I hate Mental Health Day. Mental Health Day, like, no, it's every day. Like, there's this thing of having days for things. I just don't get it at all. It's just like, these things are consistent. You don't just celebrate them on one specific day. They're there all the time, like.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, you're dead right, man.
Yeah. It's funny, you were talking about kind of the gender equality thing. I got fairly called out myself the weekend of a post I put up, but I thought I was pretty. I was just being honest about it. To do with Rachel Blackmore, love of my life. Anyway, so the next one is a bit on a lighter note. Do you believe in miracles?
Yeah, geez, I've been asked this lately as well. Similar to maybe, I suppose, like the whole religion thing. I think there's part of me, like, I'll put it like this. This is how I answered the question before, and this is maybe more in light of religion and the afterlife than miracles, but I think it answers the same question. I'd like to believe, like, there's part of me that believes, like, I'd like to believe the people that I've lost, I will meet again. But the science in me says no. So, like, I like to believe that there's something there. I like to believe miracles can happen. But just the line of work and the line of academics that I went down would all indicate no. And that would be, I'm in a very much internal moral dilemma, I suppose, with that one.
You know what, dude? I used to be, but I'm a very religious person right now. And I read the Bible every single day. And the message that I'm taking from the Bible all the time that I read it is that in our life, when we pass, I think that we're sacrificing ourselves for the next generation. So I'm a firm believer in everything. Like, I believe in Jesus, I believe in God, and I believe Jesus sacrificed himself for us. But I believe we sacrifice ourselves for the next generation. So I actually don't believe in an afterlife, even though I'm very religious. I think that's kind of based, like, I've read a lot of passages in the Bible, and everything to me from the Bible is indicating that our job is to live the best life and then sacrifice ourselves at the end of it.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a nice way of looking at it. I think I kind of envy you, Paddy, like, in terms of, I wish I had your faith. Like, I really do. But I think just right now in this part of my life, I've had no compelling evidence for me to be like, that makes me believe,
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Like, for years when I was the same, it just, to be honest, it keeps me grounded as well, more than anything. And I believe in the message. That's kind of what I believe in, really, being honest.
Yeah.
But in the last one, this is going to be a nice one. Do you think society would function better with or without a government?
Oh, Jesus, unpopular opinion. Yeah, no, I think society functions better with a government, and probably to elaborate on the unpopular opinion, I think our government are doing fine. Like, and this is again unpopular, but like, I realistically don't think there's anyone that could put their hand up and say that they can do any better than the government that's there right now. Like, I think we talk about, oh, geez, the government is a joke. When is this lockdown going to end? But like, Don Martel was actually the one who said to me, like, I mean, it wasn't the government that didn't stay at home at Christmas. Like, it wasn't the government that didn't, like, had 40 people over to their house for Christmas dinner and spread COVID like wildfire. That wasn't them. Like, that was us as a population. It was us as a country. I'm not saying everyone did it, but I'm saying that was the people. It wasn't the government. Like, the government are just they're the messengers. Like, they're the middleman. They're getting shot. And tired and fettered because they're bringing us the news. But you know what? Like, even at that, like, they're only bringing guidelines from NEFIT, and they have to make a decision between everyone going broke in poverty and everyone dying of COVID. Like, and that's not a position I don't think anyone would like to be in. You know.
Definitely. I'd agree. I agree with you, 100%. We're a nation of complainers. End of story. A nation of absolute complainers. And the way I pretty much answer the question is, like, would society function better? I don't trust society. So, and that's just the whole, like, we have a bunch of idiots running around there. And trust me, I looked in the mirror at an idiot for 19 and a half years. I know all about it, like, because I was one. But no, definitely. I think they're doing fine. And it's because if you put anyone else in, like you said, they wouldn't be able to do any better. Like who knows what to do in this situation? Like.
Yeah, and I think, like, Joe, at the end of the day, like, I think again we are better when someone is keeping tabs on us, and if we didn't have something like a government to keep tabs on us, then we'd just be all criminals. Yeah. Like, essentially, you know.
Be back to the caveman era, like.
Yeah, it'd be free for all.
Yeah.
Make it better off.
100%. Man, we're literally right at the end. I'm absolute pleasure chatting to you. It's been so long. Like, the vibe that I get out of it, it's just always perked me up 100%. Always, since I got to know you. But if there was one last thing, so could you give 3 pieces of advice for anyone during these times, when and what to do in terms of their day-to-day life? What 3 pieces of advice would you give them?
I suppose one would just be, given my recent post, is find something that excites you. Like find something that excites you. Like, we all talk about meaning and what's the purpose of life and all that. Just find something that excites you. Find something that you want to do. Like, what is drawing your attention, and just go do it. Number 2 would definitely be, like, you can always make more money. You can always make more money. Like, and the way I put that is, like, I recently come from, like, a place last year where, like, I was a PT that lost my job. Like, I was grounded as a pilot. I couldn't make money here nor there. Like, and now I'm probably in quite a comfortable position. But I came to the realization is, you know what, like, it doesn't matter if you like a Lamborghini in the yard. Someone eventually will buy a nicer Lamborghini. Like, it doesn't, like, John, money doesn't really matter. So, like, if money is a worry for you, like, unless it's like at the brink of, like, getting kicked out of your house, like, it could probably be resolved. And then I think the last thing, like, which probably sounds like a lot of fluff, is just enjoy this time while we have it. I feel like we had this opportunity for the world to slow down and to maybe take audit of why we were all so busy in the first place. And I would just be saying, like, for me anyway, like, it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, because it let me come to terms with, you know, what's important and what are we all rushing around for, and why was I doing this, and, you know, what's important, you know.
Yeah, I think this is beautiful, honestly. Like, but apart from not being able to see people, but everything else about this is, like, it's wonderful. Like, it's like everything is at a slower pace. People are so appreciative of the smallest little things. And, like, the girl in my first podcast, like, the one thing she said, her piece of advice too, is just slow down. There's, like, rushing to get this done, get that done. Like, it's not worth it. Like, no, it's.
Yeah, I think. Do you know what? Like, and it's just, yeah, it's kind of, I suppose, it is what it is, and I think that the want for a more positive experience is a negative experience in itself, you know. Whereas we could just deal with this negative experience and take a positive experience from it, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that. Love that. I think that's probably the quote to end the show on now, because I couldn't think of a better one. Steve, absolute pleasure, man. Thanks so much for coming on. I really enjoyed it. I hope the viewers enjoyed it too, and we will chat to you in a bit.
Thanks, buddy.